Does the place just north of the lakes, is that also considered part of the Atlas Plateau?
I think so. I base it based on like what color that area of the map is. Like the Atlas is kind of peachy color.
Hmm. Great Shield Talisman. What the hell does that do? Ooh, Scarding ability. That's actually super handy. Holy fuck.
Fortunate.
I have 60,000 runes.
Oh fuck.
It'd be pretty easy for me to get them unless I accidentally run off a cliff. Which has totally never happened before.
Character's eyes change color.
Here's character eyes change color?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like they were red and now they're yellow.
I like how every little area has like its own armed little soldiers, and while their armor is essentially the same, it's all like different colors, and some are like, one will use magic, one uses fire, one uses lightning, and all kinds of shit. It's kind of cool.
Wait, what was that?
How like in each area of the game, how like all the soldiers' armor more or less looks the same except for color pattern. But then they also like have stuff so like one will use lightning, one will use magic, one will use like fire-based attacks.
What are you working on right now? We're just wandering around.
Just kind of wandering around.
The Erd Tree, only a little further till the foot of it takes me back. I was born at the foot of her mother gave me my purpose, though now, the reason for which I live.
God, I fucking hate dogs. Dogs are the worst enemy in this entire fucking game.
Yeah, they're pretty annoying. always funny when you find a really weak boss and like they do like they're like, oh, I'm gonna stand up and scream at you to be intimidating, and you hit them 3 times while they're doing it and they just die. Did you know that sometimes if you kill a boss in an area and you don't kill all the regular enemies, that the regular enemies will just cower before you sometimes?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's kind of great.
So naturally I run around and kill them all anyways.
Well, yeah.
In truth, it's been smooth sailing for me. The scarlet rot has stilled since last we met. As such, I've been able to continue. Though rather vexingly, I realized that if I still had my sword arm, I could have aided you in battle. Now I'm tracing the path Melania took after unleashing the power of the scarlet rot during her battle with General Radahn in the Caelid Wilds. I should like to meet her. This vanished woman. I think she's in the north, in the lands that lie beyond the Erd Tree. Now, she's passed.
That's cool.
Whoops.
You do.
So I spawned to a dude's game, totally biffed 2 dodges and died literally in the first like 10 seconds of being there. And then he kills the guy, kind of stands there and looks at me and then does the finger snap as I'm dissipating.
I'll stand by the fact that the finger snap is the greatest emote in this game.
It is, and I have no idea where to get it. Happy I went out of my way to make more, like I went out of my way to make a bunch of like the boluses for like removing like poison and like rot and stuff, just to have them just in case I went somewhere I wasn't expecting. This is exactly what has just happened to me. As I went to a place that's literally just completely poison filled. Called Seathwater Cave.
Oh, I know that place.
Cannon of Hema is so amazing.
Oh, I got the jar cannon.
Got the what?
The jar cannon.
What the fuck is that?
I don't know yet. But I'm gonna find out.
I got, if you go back to Cerberus, or whatever that mage dude's name is, and you go to his body, if you spend the star arcs, or whatever they're called, the ones that, the starlight shards, one of the, you get two spawn people from him. One of them is a jar head warrior, and it's just like a dude who floats in the air and just has a jar on his head.
Beautiful.
And apparently the whole story behind it is there are guys who were like their whole purpose is they want to become the innards of the living jars.
Jar cannon, which uses explosives to fire great bolts, deals great damage, but is slow to reload.
Okay.
Experimental firearm that brought to the assault on Volcano Manor, where it was discovered that no one knew how to use it. It requires 34 strength. I might be able to. Do I even have any great bolts? Let's see if I can use this two-handed, maybe. No, I can't use it.
I got the mushroom outfit. It's disgusting looking. It literally makes it look like it's actually coming out of your character's skin.
Yeah, isn't it great? I don't have that. I've been to Seawater Cave, but I had people helping me, and I just kind of like ended up on a random route going down, and I did not get the mushroom outfit.
Yeah, basically the one direction leads you down, the other one leads you up and to the mushroom outfit.
Yeah.
In order to get it, though, you have to... I think it's actually inside the giant flower in there, so you have to kill it.
I don't really care. I don't want the mushroom outfit.
Why not? It's gross. It's fantastic.
'Cause I'm never gonna wear it.
Ugh, I was so disgusted when I saw what the enemies were for that place. Wow. You get a thing where poisoning or rot in the vicinity increases attack power.
I should probably actually use that considering how often I use Scarlet Rot.
Because I assume it would still function even if the stuff in the vicinity is stuff that you have on somebody.
Yeah, that's what I assume it means.
Well,
Like anyone.
Well, I assume it like directly references like if there's poison on the ground and or like scarlet rot and stuff like those areas. But
See, I thought it meant like if somebody was poisoned or had Scarlet Rot, it increased your attack power.
no, well, because it said no.
Or if they were starting to get poisoned, kind of thing.
Because it says it's in the area. So I think it's leaning more towards it being like, if you're in a poison environment or a scarlet rot environment, you get a boost to your attack and damage. But it also doesn't say whether or not that also does include, like, you actually putting it on people.
Yeah.
What's up?
Not much.
What's up, Bruce?
Hey there, little feller.
Carson tell you about my rule set I wanted to use?
No?
I already forgot most of it.
Ah, it's okay. I actually changed the one thing that I said to you. Remember I talked about, like, the power is expended?
Yeah.
I thought, maybe not. But I did change one thing. I think you have to, not only do you have to ready up your standard, like your standard, minor, and movement, you have to ready up your immediate action as well, which is dirty. If you basically get to choose like one immediate action to do. Like, let's say you are a mage and you ready up shield. If you don't have shield readied up, you can't use it that round. That sound fair?
Yeah, kind of.
So what happens if nothing happens then?
So you basically, what you do is at the start of each round, you place your powers that you want to use face down, and then like you gather your things, you flip them face down. Then when the round starts, you flip your powers face up. That's your pool that you can choose from. So I wasn't positive about the movement, but basically, like, let's say that a monster has chosen move and attack, which is basically what the monster is doing most of the time. My thought was that the monster must then do the movement action, they can't shift, and then the attack action that they have chosen. So let's say that a player with a higher initiative moves in, like a fighter, and moves into the monster. The monster has chosen the move action, so they can't then trade that to a shift because the fighter has engaged them. So it's more likely the fighter is going to be able to control things if they have a higher initiative. So if you have, like, to answer your question, like, let's say that you have a mage and they have chosen shield and they have chosen like fireball and shift and no minor action. at the start of the round. Then they cast Fireball and they shift, but no monster has attacked them with shield. My initial thought process was that shield is expended, but because that would make wasting dailies more likely. What I would instead say is the power isn't expended, it's just flip face down at the end of the round, and then you can either sub it in for a different action at the start of the next one or keep it in that available spot, right? So like if you basically like you have to be crafty with your immediate action. So you could either choose to like use shield or a different immediate action. But as fighters, like fighters have lots of different immediate actions that they have available to them. Some of them are defensive, and then there is, of course, combat challenge. So if they're choosing to ready up combat challenge, they can't use a defensive action. Like the defensive immediate action. They have to choose which immediate action to use. Like to commit, basically, at the start of the round. What it allows to do is that you can't react really as easily. You have to react at the start of the round to what you see and plan based on the positioning that you currently have available. You're not going to have players essentially just like watching what's happening and be like, oh, okay, now what am I going to do? I'm going to do this and that on their turn, because that takes up time. On top of that, this is dirty, but monsters do double damage but have quarter hit points. I'm not positive about doing double damage. I might instead add a static modifier to the monsters. That would be where I would have to actually play, but I am quite sure I want to do quarter hit points for monsters. They're demied. So it's over literally in like rounds are over, or fights are over in like 2 or 3 rounds. But each round is higher risk.
So what's the point of all this?
The point of me running it, or the point of me changing all the rule sets?
Both?
I'm curious because combat in 4th edition is often a slog, and it's nothing that I want to use in like my campaign, my Friday night campaign, because you couldn't do it digitally, not easily. I would just be more so like, is there a way to make combat more challenging than it already is for the players, but also faster? It's more like I've got this rule set in my head, and as I'm playing it out in my head, it seems like it would be a ton of fun to play, and it seems like the fights would be incredibly fast, but I don't actually know if it would work in real life. Not interested?
Well, I can understand where you're coming from for it, but I don't. I personally don't have it. Like, everyone's always talking about how they want combat to be faster, faster, faster. I don't really care if combat moves faster or not. I'm fine with the pacing it takes, and I've seen more than just D&D. Like, I've also seen like Pathfinder, quite a few other things, and nobody does it fast. It ends up being a completely different game if you change the rules enough for it to be super duper fast.
Oh, it would.
But
yeah.
And then in the concepts of challenge, that just kind of comes down to like how the encounter is built, and less so about how it's played.
What I find is that like 4th is very cerebral. It's actually, again, like I wouldn't bring it into my campaign. For one, it wouldn't work digitally, and I would not actually run an entire campaign based on this rule set. At most, I would run a one shot, which would be like a Friday, which had a maximum like 3 encounters in it, or maybe 5 at the most, actually. But I would definitely wouldn't run it, because then it wouldn't be 4th anymore. There's too many feats and stuff that would simply not translate well into this combat system. But what I'm curious to know is, like, basically using this rule set, can it be done? That's basically it. It's just what do you call it? Proof of
concept.
Proof of concept. Thank you. Proof of concept. That's it. 4th edition is actually, it's great. I don't mind the pacing for it. Like, there's definitely always ways to speed up combat, but in the end, I'm perfectly comfortable with sitting down with a group of guys and taking a 2 or 3 hour fight, at like, you know, you're fighting a boss, it takes 2 or 3 hours to do that. It feels fun, and it's fine when it's slow paced. What frustrates me sometimes is that it often seems like the players are reacting and forth. That's like one of the biggest complaints that people have, is that there are so many immediate actions and opportunity actions that are all used. I am wondering, and a player will like basically, I see it all the time because I do it myself, is that it becomes my turn. I'll be like, what's happened again? Oh yeah, let's look at the board. Okay, so 15 seconds ago I was planning, or no, sorry, for like 15 minutes ago, which is like 4 turns ago, I was planning on doing this. Now it's my turn out of 7 people, and what I've changed, what I've wanted to do has like changed dramatically. I would instead like it that if you played with like a group of like 3 people or 4 people, that it should be a little bit easier to predict what your allies are going to do, and then what you have chosen to do, you have to commit to. It's more like a board game where like you've committed your actions at the start of the round, and then you must do those actions. That's your action pool.
Yeah.
To pull from. It would not work with larger groups of people. It would be ridiculous. It also wouldn't work with larger groups of monsters, not easily. But it would allow for DMs to like rip through monster actions really quickly. I would say it also opens up things like I mentioned to Carson. It makes running much stronger in combat, because running in 4th edition right now sucks, and there's entire builds, like ranger builds, that are built around running and kiting, and it really sucks in 4th. Like I said to Carson yesterday, like let's imagine you have an elven running ranger, which is like a completely strong build, at least it should be. There's a lot of feats that support it. And then the elven ranger chooses to run and takes no penalties for running because they have the feats to support it. They choose to run and make a ranged shot. The monster then chooses to move and charge. That's a massive counter. Whereas in the rule set that I'm proposing, let's say the elf has chosen to run and shoot, and the monster had chosen at the beginning of its round to move and attack. Now it has to complete the move action, but the elf is out of range because it ran, and it can't trade its attack down to a charge or to another movement. It has been kited. Like it's gone to make a swipe at something, but the other player has moved faster in that 6-second period than the monster has.
Yeah, but
It also,
I understand what you're getting at, but it also sounds like you're basing it very heavily off from a singular player perspective. Because the whole point of a ranger when they're kiting somebody is that they kite them to lead them to an inopportunist position so that their allies can either flank them or do something else to them. Whereas when you're looking at it on a base like standpoint, like, okay, when I'm playing a ranger, this keeps happening over and over again. And so if you keep trying to solve the problems as like from a singular perspective, you're never really going to come to like a really good conclusion. That's because you need to be like incorporating your allies. So as soon as you start going to like that play model you're talking about, where it's like, oh, everyone needs to plan ahead and like, hey, we're all doing these actions. You then need to think about like, okay, I'm gonna move and shoot. What are you gonna do as a fighter? It's like, well, I'm gonna not move because you're moving, and then I'm gonna attack. So then it kind of like completely ruins the effect of like being able to actually plan and coordinate, because you have no idea what the enemy's doing anymore. Because you could make an entire plan, like every single one of you's like, oh, I'm gonna do this, you're gonna do this, and you're gonna do this, and then the enemy decides to do something completely different. Every single one of you have now wasted your turn.
Yeah, that was something that Carson and I had talked about as well, is that there is no plan. You get basically like 6 words, an incredibly short period of time at the start of each round only to communicate with the other players as to what you want to do. It is literally like, flank, I'm charging. Right? So like you have an incredibly short command that you can issue. You're not issuing commands at all during the round. So in response to like let's say that you get hurt by an attack and you scream out like, I'm bloodied. You can't do that. At the start of the round, you can be like, heal me, or you can, again, like you can't table talk in the middle of the round.
Yeah.
That would kind of defeat the purpose, but it would also, like you said, like you can't you can't respond easily because, like you said, you can make an entire plan. In the current way that we sit around the table, it's very slow and cerebral, and it's nice because you can plan, you can strategize. We table talk consistently, which in some tables is completely banned. You're not allowed to do that, but I mean, I enjoy it. It makes it more of like a tactical, slow, cerebral experience. But with this way, you wouldn't be able to do that. You would have to guess what the monsters are going to do at the start. And then the players with the higher initiative are more likely to get their attack off in the way that they want. The monsters, which generally have lower initiatives, but not always, or the players with lower initiative are less likely to get things as they predicted. So it makes for like rogues to be, and rangers and mages. So rangers, mages, they're doing like ranged attacks, and rogues, which have a higher initiative, are more likely to do what they want to do, whereas the slower, dumber fighters are more likely to be caught off guard, or players with just general like lower initiatives, which are often the strength and con builds.
So basically, if you're playing a slower character, you're basically fucked every round then.
Not necessarily. You're more likely to be. You still have the same number of actions, so like you don't have to do them in the order. Okay, so let's say you chose move and an attack power. You don't have to do move and then attack. You can do attack and then move. You just have those actions that you have available to you, and you can't react until what has happened in the round, until essentially the start of the next round.
So like so you have all these cards and like, okay, so you picked movement and attack. When do you actually get to do those? Like, does it still based off of initiative at that point, or is it just random?
Oh yeah. No. You roll your initiative at the start of the encounter, and then that's your order for each. You don't roll initiative at the start of each round. You roll your initiative once at the start of the encounter. That's your order forever. You would proceed exactly as you would with 4th edition. Like, the player with the higher initiative goes first that round, the player with the second high initiative goes next that round, all the way until you get to the lower initiative, and then it's the start of round 2. Communication is allowed, powers must be selected and added to the power pool face down.
Basically, what he's saying is everything's the same, except at the beginning of each round, like once you hit the top of the round, everyone declares what they're doing at once, and then you roll through initiative order.
Yeah. You know, I know what you're getting at. To me, it sounds horribly broken. Like,
Does it?
Yeah, it does not sound like it'd be very functional at all, because it removes the whole point of like active planning. So like, you know, like you said, like sometimes when you're playing, like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and then either an enemy reacts, or like you said, it plays as very reactionary usually. And so as soon as you remove the concept, like, oh, it's very reactionary, now it's just a guessing game. Oh, I think they're going to do this. I think they're going to do this. Then all of a sudden they don't do that. It's like, cool, I wasted a whole turn. So what's going to end up happening, especially for the guys who are slower, is you're going to have like 6 rounds go by where someone makes a decision, makes a plan of like what their characters are going to do, and they're going to get fucked like 6 rounds in a row. So instead of like it being like, oh, okay, the enemy do this like it is normally, it's like the enemy does something, oh, okay, he's doing that. That means I can do this now. Or like, oh, that wasn't what I was originally planning on doing, but I can react to it like this now. Instead, it's going to be, you're going to have one person who's like really slow and always going last, is going to be like, oh, cool, my plan to move and attack is now pointless because he moved and charged. Oh, cool, my plan to defend is now pointless because he moved and attacked. So you're going to end up getting players who are going to have like 6 or 7 rounds in a row where like literally they can't do anything.
Okay, so
they're just going to be stuck.
I know in theory that could happen, but I have already thought, like, I thought about that. Like, I thought about, like, what would happen with the fighters. So, let's say you have the class example of a big, dumb fighter, okay? And they're going last in the initiative order. They're at the bottom of the round every time. What are they choosing for their available action pool? It's probably a movement action of some kind. So, it's either a shift or it's a move. And then they're probably choosing an attack power. And then minor action, who fucking knows? Because it's a fighter, they could have a whole bunch of stuff. They could switch a stance or whatever like that, right? So let's say they had thought that the enemy was going to run right at them. So they had chosen for their action, they had chosen for their available actions a move, just in case the enemy didn't, like a movement action, and they had chosen an attack power. But they wouldn't be stupid enough to not pick a movement action, right? That would be dumb. Okay, so let's say best case scenario, they chose a movement and an attack power. Now the monster doesn't engage them. It engages another player. So they use they're at the bottom of the round, they use their movement to close in on the monster and their attack. Worst case scenario, for whatever reason, they thought that the monster was going to charge them and they wanted to disengage with a shift as an attack power. Monster charges the other player. Now they cannot close the distance with a shift and use their attack power. So they have wasted their turn that round, unfortunately. Okay, so why would they have chosen to shift anyway every single round, 6 rounds in a row? That's almost impossible for a player to be that stupid where they're constantly going to be choosing a disengage action and an attack power. Right? So
You underestimate how stupid people.
okay, there are some people that would, as a fighter, consistently choose the shift, which is a disengage. Consistently choose shift for 6 rounds in a row. But they're virtually always choosing move. Now let's look at what had happened if they had predicted that the enemy was going to go for a player character. They would choose the movement action and attack power. But instead, 2 enemies rush the fighter and get them down low. Now they cannot shift to disengage from the 2, they've only chosen movement. So they must use an attack power, of course, because there's 2 targets in range. But if they want to move, they must choose the movement action. Otherwise, they could choose to pass on the movement, but they can't disengage. So in theory, you could have a player that was so dumb that they are not able, like they're consistently choosing shift, but virtually all players will choose move as their available action pool for a movement action. Would you not agree?
A big enemy standing right beside them, and they don't want to guarantee give it
At the start of the round, at the start of the round, or let's say that like I'm a warlock, okay? So I'm casting at range. There's an enemy that is 5 squares away from me, and the fighter is not in front of me. I predict that there's a good chance that enemy is going to rush me. So I choose shift as my movement action at the start of the round rather than move, because I know that even if they don't, there's a good chance that they're going to rush me. I really don't see it happening as often as you're picturing in my head, where the players are wasting an entire round.
For me, I find like I can see this working if it was like a card game or something of that sort, but in a role-playing game, it totally takes away from like the idea of like, oh, okay, we're in it right now, things are happening actively, because all of a sudden it turns into like I said, like it essentially turns into a card game, because most card games are like, you know, you take literally your first turn is set it, you all set up, and then it's all reactionary to like, oh, okay, I set up and had this, it's like, oh, well, I had this, it's like, well, shit, fuck, that sucks. So it kind of like turns into a card game. It's like if I was to like ignore the fact we're talking about D&D in the first place, and this was just like a straight up like kind of card game or like simplistic board game by itself, that would totally be fun. But in the realm of like our role-playing game, I think it's totally like out of source and kind of game breaky, because you lose, because the whole point of the combat and stuff, like whether it be D&D, Pathfinder, or any of those like space games and stuff, is it's supposed to be built around obviously game mechanics, but also around the concept of like it's supposed to be like you're in world, in game. Your character's like, you know, an enemy goes first and your ally goes first, and you're watching this go down. It's like, oh shit, this just happened, and you're reacting to it. It gets rid of like that visceral feeling of like, okay, this is something that's actively happening right now. Now I totally get where you're coming from with like, yeah, the biggest problem we have, especially with Owen's game, this has nothing to do with Owen. It's because we have so many people. Yeah, you get to that point where it's like everyone's turns taking so long. That's also like that's the big sacrifice of having a large group. Like in my opinion, I think the best size of a group is 4 players and a DM. I think that's that's like the perfect size, because it's not too many and it's not too little. 4 players gives you enough to have, you know, a healer, a ranger, a fighter, and then that third kind of like wild card of whether they're another fighter or like a magic user or something.
Yep.
But so like concept-wise, I don't think your concept is bad, but I think it's bad for a role-playing game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm going to actually counter that for a second and say that I disagree to a certain degree. So if you imagine what's happening in our combat situations now, by the standard rules as written, it is very reactionary. Okay, so I'm watching a a brute run up and take a slash at my wizard, and I'm reacting to that as a fighter and charging that brute.
Yeah.
That would be imagine that all the characters are in the field and they each take turns moving, okay? And each of their actions takes 6 seconds, and then the next character's actions start at the end of that at the end of that monster's actions and take an additional 6 seconds. That would mean that if you had 5 players each taking 6 seconds, it's a 30-second round. But actually what's happening is, as you know, all of the stuff is happening in the same 6 seconds. So in 6 seconds, you're not actually reacting. If you had chosen to charge and attack, you don't have time to then switch in that 6 seconds to do a completely different thing. You're at the beginning of the 6 seconds, you're looking at what's happening and you're committing to an action. You're not stopping that partway through and switching to something else, all in the span of 6 seconds. So what's actually, like I said, is happening is I'm trying to capture the bedlam of battle, where I kind of imagine, like I did the example with the healer, okay? So in this rule set, it's brutal. Let's say you have a healer that's going at the bottom of the round. Their rogue gets damaged and bloodied at the start of the round. The healer has already committed to doing an offensive spell and has not readied healing word. For whatever reason, they have not readied healing word or a healing spell. Not only at the end of the round have they waited an entire round watching the rogue at bloodied value, they must wait to the complete end of the second round to heal. That's like a full 12 seconds, where basically the healer, if you can imagine it, has seen a foe in front of him, and as he's swinging his axe or his hammer, sees his buddy get bloodied. He completes the swinging and then takes the next round to cast the healing spell. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Actually, in a role-playing perspective, in my opinion, readying the actions at the start makes it feel more like a role-playing game. Less like a chess game, where each opponent is moving pawns and the other characters are static, reacting to the movement after the turn has been completed.
See, but from from the perspective of like basing it off of actual like combat, real life combat is super duper reactionary. Like there's times when you're fighting and you're getting ready to do like, oh, I'm gonna do this combo. All of a sudden, mid combo, this dude you're fighting totally blocks or counters whatever you're doing, and you immediately have to react to that. It's like, oh shit, I'm changing up what I'm doing. Or say you're in a race or you're playing a sport like basketball. Okay, me and my teammate's going down. He's going to pass me the ball. I'm going to go for a layup. Shit, they just stole the ball. That doesn't mean I'm just going to be like, oh, well, I was planning on doing a layup. I guess I'm still just running towards that basket. No, you immediately stop on your foot, heel turn, and run. So everything is reaction to that concept. So like when you all of it planning ahead, it's like, oh, well, I was planning on doing a layup. He went before me and he stole the ball, so I guess I'm still doing that layup because that's what I was planning to do. Doesn't make sense. Because in real life, when things are like that are happening, and like obviously these games are supposed to be very loosely based on the concept of like real life fighting, while still building game mechanics. That's what the turn system is about. And all the initiative order is based on the concept of people are faster than other people. So that's why you're rogues. The rogues are supposed to be very wily, very quick moving. So naturally they're going to be the first one to move in a combat scenario. He's going to go up and start just like shivving a guy. So say you're fighting a rogue, he runs. So like your cleric isn't planning on healing anybody because nobody's hurt yet. So he's like, oh, I'm going to go up and try to hit this guy in the face with my mace. All of a sudden, this dude moves so fucking fast. You're like, oh, shit. And he goes and starts stabbing one of your friends. Like, cool, I'm not going to hit that guy anymore. I'm going to fucking try to heal my friend because he's got stabbed like 6 times.
Yeah.
So that's what I look at it from the concept. And so, like, the idea of, like I said, based in role-playing is, like, the idea of, like, your character is so dissonant and so disabled mentally that even though they're this big hero who can like survive crazy things, that they can just go like, well, I'm gonna walk up and hit this guy. Oh, gee whiz, he moved. I can't do anything now. Seems really
But you can. So like, what would be the only situation where like, where the guy, you are not able to hit the guy. Let's say the monster had chosen 2 movement actions. They're gonna move their full speed away from you twice. Okay, so what has happened in that case is you have tried to run up to hit that guy, but he's booked it fast, and so you would potentially swing in empty air or not have that opportunity available to you. the number of times, I think you're grossly overestimating the number of times where you're going to be in that situation where you don't do what you want to do.
I'm not heavily relying on that. It's the concept that with that build, you're totally removing the idea that you can change your plans. So like, okay, my guys. So say
yes.
So it's like this guy's the enemy's going to move and attack. I'm also going to move and attack. I could totally reach him and hit him, irrelevant if that was my real plan or not. But the idea that I have to stick to like these two choices I made instead of making it as a reactionary concept is silly, and in a basis kind of like makes initiative kind of pointless, because the whole point of initiative is they react fast. So if you're slow at initiative, everything you're doing now has to be reactionary. Whereas if you already have like these preset moves that you can only do, it's no longer reactionary anymore. It's now just, oh, these are the things that I can do and this is what I'm going to do, irrelevant of what's kind of going on. So I'm not saying like, oh yeah, every turn you're going to be totally screwed over. I'm just saying like, to me it loses the actual feel of like actual combat by like you having predetermined action. So it's irrelevant if whether you're like, okay, my character is planning on having moving fully and attacking a dude, and say then the guy who goes first flanks you, and so like, okay, doing a full movement would totally like give them attack of opportunity. So either I can, I chose to do a full movement, which I cannot do now, but I originally wanted to go and help my ally. So instead, I'm going to shift. So that's like the idea of like, your character starts to do a movement, a dude runs and blocks his way, so instead he does like a quick side step off to the side to like make some distance between him and that guy. You can't do that kind of thing anymore because you picked a full movement. So now it's just you can't move. So like,
you are correct. Yes, you are right. You have like a lot of really good points, which is almost certainly why they chose to run 4th edition the way they do. It's arguably better, and it works very well. And there's no reason for it to not be run the way that it is, which is why I am not saying that I want to switch anything over.
No, I know you're not.
But
like I said, for me, the idea you have isn't bad at all. I don't think it would work for RPG.
In a role-playing situation.
That's just my personal opinion. Not saying your idea is bad, not saying it may actually work, that kind of thing. From my perspective, it just wouldn't work in that kind of game. Like I said, it also depends on who's playing. You might have a group of people who are like, holy shit, that's fucking awesome, and they want to play a full game like that. Like, people think that would work really well. Just my personal opinion, I don't think it's good. But that's not, I'm not trying to dissuade you from trying it or working it out or even attempting to do whatever you want with it. I'm just telling you my opinion on it. I'm not trying I'm not trying to tell you not to do it at all.
Oh, I'm not taking offense to it. I think what it really boils down to, if I understand it, is that we have different perceptions of combat, because your martial art experience is very much like is all reactionary in martial arts. So like that is blink of an eye reactions in martial arts, whereas I'm visualizing combat like a soccer match or like a basketball match. So you had a good example of like the player trying to do a layup. Well, that actually what happens is like you have a player that is sprinting towards a net, and another player suddenly intercepts the player, takes his ball. The player does not suddenly pivot, turn 180 degrees and go in the opposite direction. There's momentum. They carry through with the original intention that they had. Right? So we are viewing combat in different ways.
Yeah, we are. Well,
we are, for
and
sure.
I was going to say, with the example of basketball, I also played basketball, and when someone steals the ball, you're trained. That's why they make you run, oh god, what's it called?
Suicides, right? Suicides?
Yes, that's the whole point of suicides.
Yeah.
The whole point is it's training you to completely stop your momentum instantly and completely revert it. So, like, you're literally training to make it so that doesn't happen. And that's why, like, even though everyone hates suicides because they fucking suck ass, it has the exact purpose going against what you're saying. So that's my argument for that.
So what I was proposing was, quartered hit points with possibility of double damage, but definitely quartered hit points on the monsters. So we already know that combat is going faster. Okay, so every round is more important, which makes an action point very useful, because the action point can be used to insert an extra action whenever you want. It's not, the action point is not declared at the start of each round. It's declared on your turn whenever you want. So let's say you get yourself in that situation where you're not able to do what you would do. The action point fixes that. And an action point is not like, you know how like combat often lasts like 10 rounds. Well, now combat is lasting 2 or 3 rounds. So the action point makes a very big difference. The chances of the action point will feel more what do you call it, like influential or like more monumental. I don't know what the correct term is, but it has more weight, and so it allows you to do those things where like you're suddenly caught in a position where you're not able to do what you thought you were going to do. That's where the action point would allow you to correct what you had initially planned to do. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I'm still gonna try and run it if I get any interest. It will be fast. You will literally, the combat will be over if everything is right as I played in my head.
Yeah.
In probably 20 minutes to 30 minutes for, you're up against 4 enemies. It's literally like you could have players taking out an enemy in one shot or one with assistance from an ally. A full out like 100 hit point enemy is now 25 hit points, and the enemies around level 12 are probably about 250 hit points. So quarter that, you're looking at 60 hit points. How many times have you as a ranger hit something for 60 hit points? Right, you're pretty darn close. You're hitting for like you're probably consistently with Farson hitting at around 52 or 50 on heavy hitting attacks. Am I right? Or maybe 40 actually.
I can usually do it once in a while, not very often though.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking of like what's that one called you always use?
If I do Marked for Death, I can do it like
Marked for Death. That's it.
For me, it's obviously because now that I know it's reliable and I'm actually able to utilize it correctly. With Marked for Death, I'm basically rolling 4 d8s automatically, no matter what else I'm doing. So if I'm doing another daily attack, I get another 3 d8s. So I'm rolling what is it, 8 d8s?
It's you said 4 plus 3 is 7.
Oh, sorry, yeah. So
I'm 28 damage average.
Yeah.
Plus modifier of like 6 or 7. So whatever it is at your level.
Shit. But
yeah.
But for like Farson, for example, it's very much dice related. I've also built characters where, irrelevant of dice being rolled, I'm doing 20 damage right off the bat kind of thing.
Yeah, because your static modifier is so high. Is that why?
Oh, yeah.
Or, well, because you've got, like, power attack. Like, you talk about, like, your Minotaur Slayer and shit like that? Where, like, your static modifiers are so high.
Yeah, my Minotaur Slayer is a good example of that. So, like, even without doing power attack or anything like that, his static modifier is like a 20 at like a low level. Same with like any sorcerer I've ever built does a shit ton of damage at like level 12. They do like plus 25, and that's like areas doing burst attacks. So, like I'm doing like an AOE. I'm hitting like six people at once, and every single one of them are taking 25 damage without me rolling a single dice. But that's why. I can't remember what level I was when you started playing with us. But
you were 9.
I was 9, yeah. So like a comparison between like Farson before I reached level 11 was so weak because I was rolling D6s for everything. It wasn't until I got Avalanche Hurler that everything went up to D8s.
Yeah, plus you didn't have is it Dex? Well, I can't remember what you used for heavy weapons though. I thought it was Strength, but I think your ranged weapon attacks are based off Dex for a ranger.
Yeah, they are, and I'm using a heavy thrown weapon, so I don't get as big as a boost for like a basic attack. Now, like for regular special attack, it's all Dex, so it doesn't really matter what kind of weapon you're using. But it's the heavy weapon becomes an issue for trying to like my ranged basic attack is still hot shit with the throwing hammer. But I also only just recently got an actual magic weapon. Like, for the longest time, all the way up to level 13, as Farson, I didn't have a magic weapon. I was using a quote-unquote magical hammer that was literally completely mundane and statistics-wise, other than coming back.
Was that... Oh, you had the cold one, but that's a melee weapon only.
Yeah, that's a
I can't remember what that was.
That was a plus... Yeah, that one's a +1 for Warhammer.
Yeah. I thought it was funny where it was where I was like, no, it's +5 for Andy's weapon.
Oh yeah.
Because Owen was like, oh yeah, I was a bad DM. I gave him something that was like a level 11 weapon or whatever he said. And I was like, no, dude, no. It's like a level 24 weapon or like a level 23 weapon. I remember when I realized that because it makes perfect sense to think about it in the way that Andy was, that Owen was though. Andy was probably level 5, so Owen looked at that and thought, I'm gonna give him a +5 weapon.
Yeah.
Right? Because that sounds right.
That sounds like something Owen would do.
I mean, it sounds right if you didn't know the item list.
Yeah.
You literally just thought, well, he's level 5, so he gets +1 per level, so it should be +5. But unfortunately, that's high as shit, like really, really high. So. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'll give it a try. I'll plan it sometime when I'm not so busy and just it'll literally be like I think like within 20 or 30 minutes I'll know if the math is working out as
Yeah.
I thought it would in my head, but I will definitely not ever bring this into a campaign. Because as much as you could say like it benefits certain players, it does stunt some, and healers and fighters would be virtually invisible at the table. You wouldn't see those characters used unless you had some way of around it. I thought of like maybe I don't know, like more like 5th edition kind of thing where like maybe you could instead trade one of your immediate actions for a second attack or something. But then it'd be, or like if you agreed to sacrifice your immediate and your movement, you could take 2 attacks at a round. But then that would be so strong.
Yeah.
Like I mean, 2 attacks with quarter hit points, you'd nuke something.
Yeah, the other big difference between one of the big differences between 4 and 5, if we're comparing those directly, is for like because even like Pathfinder has like once you get higher level you get 2 attacks. The biggest difference between all of those is that in 4th you get at-wills, and at-wills are fancier attacks. So whereas in all those other ones, like I get 2 attacks, but they're just super duper basic, just regular old attacks. And it's now the closest to at-wills that Pathfinder, because Pathfinder is very similar to 5 in lots of ways. It's also similar to 4th in quite a few ways. Is that Pathfinder is like a funny little medium, and there's some things I initially didn't like about Pathfinder, but the more I look into it, I actually find it kind of interesting. But so like the one thing that's kind of consistent though, so like for fighters and stuff, both in Pathfinder and you may have talked about this before, how fighters are way better off in 4th than they are in 5th. It's the same. It's the same with Pathfinder. So like the only upside you get as a fighter in both Pathfinder and 5th is higher level. You can do more than 1 attack, but your attack's still just a regular attack. Now sometimes like once you're higher level, you can hit really fucking hard. So like you get the upside that you hit pretty hard, but like in 4th they at least give you at will, so you can do something semi fancy if you decide to pick something fancy. Sometimes you just pick something that hits slightly harder. But then in 4th, you also, like, all magic users get, your at-wills. So, like, I can have magic missile, this and that. But in Pathfinder, you also get, like, your basic cantrip spells, which are literally... Because in cantrips in 4e are more so, like, useful out-of-combat stuff. Whereas in 5e and Pathfinder, cantrips are essentially your at-wills. So, like, magic missile is essentially a cantrip. Now, you can upgrade it in all those. Actually, I might be wrong. I can't remember if it is a cantrip. I think it is a cantrip in 5th.
It is a cantrip.
Yeah, but you can just... I know you can cast at a higher level and make it stronger, though.
Oh, wait. If I'm not... Yes, you're definitely right. You can cast at a higher level. If I'm not mistaken, actually, Magic Missile hits 3 times. Like, does 3 attacks in... I could be wrong, but I think it does 3 attacks in 5th, and it's considered a first-level spell. I could be wrong. I think it actually isn't a cantrip.
Yeah, but... no, I don't think it is now that I'm thinking about it. But there are like things like I can't remember half the spell names. I want to say Burning Hands is one. But
Eldritch Blast is definitely a cantrip.
Yeah. So 5, but it's like that in Pathfinder too. Like magic users have spells that are basically like their at-will. So like instead of doing melee attacks, because I'm listening to one podcast right now where the one guy's playing a witch, and so his essential at-wills aren't attacks; they're debuffers. And so he uses a crossbow. So if on his turn he wants to actually do damage, he shoots people with a crossbow. Whereas when you're playing in like 5th, you would never have to do that because you're going to have an attacking at-will, most likely. Not necessarily, but most likely. And the similar thing can't happen in 4th because there are some, I don't know if there's always 2, but I know in some cases you can usually pick at least 1 at-will where it doesn't do damage. So like it's kind of like a weird build.
or it does really low damage. Like there's a lot where like it only does weapon, but it doesn't do any modifier damage. There's a ton of those. There's almost one in every single class.
Yeah, and then I know like the one
but it'll have some kind of control.
Yeah,
like it'll like have a
exactly.
knockdown or a day, or not a daze, that'd be OP. But there's like a knockdown or a push or something.
Like a good example of that is Hypnotize for magic users in 4th. Is what is it? You can make them attack, slide them. Or I think there's a third option, but I can't remember.
I can only remember because Allie did that all the time. That was her principle as her bread and butter. You could either slide them a certain distance, or you could make them do a basic attack. But I can't recall anything else offhand. There might be something else, but that's all I can recall. Yeah, that was. I mean, yeah, you're right. There's precept that, and fighters have that. It's doing a little bit of damage, but not a lot. You're really just slamming with the shield. I have watched like a few like in defense of 4th edition kind of videos. And one of the things that DMs consistently will use in 5th edition, and I don't think it's in the rules as written, but a lot of DMs, almost all DMs use it, is bloodied. Yeah. So that was brought in 4th edition. The idea that like you can physically see when the monster has reached, like has gotten wounds and has reached a certain health level.
Yeah.
That way players are not just kind of like guessing. Like it's gone from being a perfectly fine functioning troll to suddenly it's dead.
Yeah.
Right? Like 1 minute it was swinging around or whatever. It wasn't even breathing heavy, and then it's just dead. So a lot of DMs will use that. They liked at Will's minions. Was never in the earlier editions. That was brought in 4th, and a lot of DMs will use minions in 5th because again, like it gives that kind of like heroic feel at the very baseline. I was listening to one guy was talking about how it's kind of like in Lord of the Rings where like Legolas and Gimli are chewing through throngs of orcs basically, right? And each one is dying in a single shot. That's minions in film. Yeah. But also minions serve, like I've said this before, like I've kind of it's kind of come into the light a little bit more in the last few weeks, maybe like last 2 months. Minions are incredibly strong. Like they are an amazing tool that DMs can use. And they hard counter warlocks, rangers, rogues, like use them. Every fight should have a healthy, well, not every, but a good chunk of fight should have like a healthy dose of minions.
Yeah, I agree.
They're your bread and butter.
Well, and even if like say you want a combat that was not super hard but semi-hard, it's like okay, I'm gonna throw some minions at them, but I'm gonna keep the minions at their level so the minions are on even kind of ground. But then you do stuff like okay, these 4 minions are gonna have poison on their spears, so you do the extra dice roll for whatever type of poison you decide to give them, or you can make them have like some kind of like if you want to make them have like you want to have like gross goblins that like shit on their spears or something like that. So like you attack the person, it also gives the possibility of giving the person filth fever, stuff like that. So like it comes down like I know you and me have both talked about this in length, but like the idea of like I find a lot of the times, and like I'm not this isn't me like shitting on you and Owen, because I've listened to quite a few different podcasts, whether it be 5-year Pathfinder, like this one I'm listening to right now is all Pathfinder, and it shows me different ideas and examples of how people kind of utilize different things, and it makes me kind of like think back to like 4E. It's like okay, what's something we've run into recently that wasn't super hard but could have been more difficult, and it's not necessarily like anyone made a bad decision or it was like or anything like oh this enemy was too easy to hit. It could have been something simple as like, oh, okay, so this enemy wasn't super easy to hit, but he also didn't hit super hard, so it wasn't that hard of an encounter. Maybe it didn't need to be a hard encounter because something else was coming up. Or maybe if that did need to be a harder encounter, maybe we can add something to that guy. So like whether makes it so he does something extra, or does poison damage, or those kind of things like that. Because everyone's always about like, oh, this needs to be harder, more enemies, or more random bullshit, or more auto crits. It's like, no, just switch it up a little. So like, your players are going this way. Kind of have an idea of what they're going to run into. It's like, okay, the first combat maybe they run into is going to be kind of easy. And, but I want to use up maybe some of their powers. The next combat's going to be a little bit harder, but it might come off as easy. So like, oh, we just fought rats. Cool. It's another like group of rats again, but these rats now carry diseases and they don't know that. And so like the biggest problem, like, so obviously I've been pushing diseases on Owen really heavily just because I think diseases are great, and I want Owen to use more stuff because I know sometimes he struggles with it, trying to make stuff hard for us, and sometimes he doesn't always do it. He has gotten better over the years, but sometimes he negates like, oh, I'm just going to throw a guy at them that has like a 35 AC, so like only 2 of my players can hit. So I always want to throw more stuff at him. So like he, instead of like going, oh, I'm going to throw a guy who's super high AC, instead he's going to be like, oh, I'm going to throw a guy who has like poison or disease at him. And he has done that before to us, where he has had people like throw toxic grenades and things like that. Mm-hmm. But so like, the biggest downside though is of course if I'm actively pushing it in front of him, everyone sees me going, hey Owen, we should have diseases. And everyone's like, oh, that's a good idea. Hey guys, I'm going to be doing diseases now. Now everybody knows a disease is coming. So everyone's like, oh, okay, I know how to prepare for this. I know how to prepare for diseases. Whereas, like, if I can get, like, the idea into his head, like, hey, use this. And then, now Owen does have a problem with oversharing. We've told him this before. Is like, so if Owen kind of collapses down on kind of like oversharing, and he decides, like, on his own, like, okay, they've been talking about diseases. I'm going to throw a disease in here but not tell anybody. All of a sudden it becomes more dangerous because, like, say, like, my character gets hit and I get diseased. Unless the disease has like a very initial effect is like super aggressive, there's no reason I should know I'm diseased until I have to roll that endurance check at night. And it's like, oh, all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, I kind of feel like shit. And then you kind of start looking into it. So, and it's the same with like poisons. Like, you know, the enemy attacks you, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're slowed now. It's like, what the fuck? Why am I slowed? It's like, yeah, it's save ends. This guy attacks me again, but all he's doing is just like regular attacks, just shivving me over and over. It's like, cool, you're slowed again. It's like, what the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
So like, there's lots of ways to work around that kind of thing, and I don't remember why we started talking about this at all, actually.
Because it's totally different from talking about my my combat rule set, which is good. We were done with talking with that anyway. I know Owen has a tendency to overshare, and I do, but I often do. I overshare like in not in combat information. I think generally I'm okay, like pretty good about keeping what's going on with the monsters, and you have to kind of guess. But I definitely do, like we talked about that before. Like I will definitely like err on the side of giving players more information because I want them to have I want them to realize that they have available options. And it's basically my rationale for that is it's playing off like your passive insight or perception.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it's really just me trying to like tease a plot point or something like that. Like you could go this way if you really want to. I know Owen last classic Owen overshare last session he was really proud of the custom monster that he made. So when I hit it, and I slid it, because I was controlling a little bit, not that much, but a little bit, and he said, like, that's the best possible thing you could do because it does this, and it does this, and he told me very specific things. I immediately rolled a religion check.
Yeah.
To be like, do I even know that information, or should I literally just, like, ignore everything that Owen is saying? And it was a 29, so it was an 18 on the die with a plus 11 modifier. It was really fucking high, so I was like, okay, I do know this. And then Owen actually saw that I had rolled it and called me out and said, thanks for rolling that religion check. Yeah, of course, but... yeah, like a lot of times when players will tell me that, I just like, okay, I know that, but I don't really know that. Or if a DM tells me something, like, did I even actually know that? Like, did I even see the way that he was with this monster was interacting with the other players around it with those pussy fucking things that were causing disease?
Yeah.
So I now have information going into the next day that I will then communicate to John directly so that he knows, but John did also hear it as well. He's sitting right by me.
But no, I'd definitely be willing to try your thing out though.
Yeah, it's like 20 minutes, like I said, 20 or 30 minutes. That's probably it. That's all we need. You just basically like you cut up your cards, like, you know, your power cards. You just cut those up, put them. Those are your cards you would use. Yeah, we'll do it one time. Not now though. I got report cards to do and all that. I'm basically trying to like slog through report cards. And I hope we're gonna have D&D this Friday. Pretty sure we are, but I don't know for sure. And then I'm pretty sure. And then for sure I'll be there Sunday. So yeah, I get a dip though.
Yeah.
My wife's home. See you guys later.
See ya.
How's it going, Bruce?
Hey, sweet boy.
So I told Lawrence that I was vaccinated. And then he told me to contact HR. And HR told me that I have to wait until the 23rd to get over. Canada Health doesn't consider me vaccinated until 14 days after my shot.
If only we could have seen this coming.
I almost told HR Lady Darcy to fuck off. As it was, I practically hung up on her.
As it was, you what?
As it was, I practically hung up on her. She was telling me a bunch of shit like, oh, you gotta fill this shit out, even though you're not working for another 14 days. And I was like, Okay, awesome. Thanks, bye. I just hung up.
Hmm.
I was really fucking mad.
God damn it, I accidentally jumped in lava. what?
Got the god skin pure. You were here a second ago.
Got the Bloodhound Knight armor. And the Gelmir Knight armor. don't really know where I'm supposed to go from here.
Where are you?
I'm in the Gelmir Hero like mines, but the only place to go other than where I've already been is like down a giant fucking hill of lava, which would kill me very, very quickly.
What do you mean the Gomer Hero mine?
I wish that's what it was called.
You mean the grave?
Yeah, sorry, yeah, the grave.
I think I was there. If you equip a claw weapon with a quick step, you can move really fast in lava, and it won't kill you that quick. So I think I know where you're right. You're at the area where the big roll things are that kill you most of that, right?
Yeah, and it's really annoying.
Yeah, just use a claw weapon to move through the lava.
Would immunity would have nothing to do with fire damage, would it?
Yeah, immunity is just like poison and scarlet rot, I think.
Yay, Bloodhound step saved my ass. And putting on all my highest armor for fucking fire damage. I have like the big fat boy armor on.
thought like metal armor decreased your fire resistance.
That's what I thought too, because I was looking for like more of my magic-based stuff, but it was the that's why it's the fire prelate armor.
Oh, that stuff, yeah.
Yay! Praise the checkpoint.
If I can help somebody with this fight first. I don't know where Carson went. Me and Dan were talking, so we ran away.
Being summoned.
Usually it takes me a bit to get summoned.
You're beautiful.
Oh, I hate this thing.
What are you fighting?
They're one of those just big red wolves, like the foxes or whatever.
Oh yeah, those suck.
Yeah, I have the big Kamehameha blast now, though. I'm excited to fight this thing. I fucking hate fighting those. Killed me super fast. I thought 2 sword strikes was its max, but it did 3. how much damage my sword slash does. I'm pretty sure I got this. Pretty sure. My dodge. Ooh, another Bloodhound Knight I can summon. This place was super unpleasant and I didn't like it.
Well, I figured out where to take the death roots again.
You said you have or you haven't?
I figured out where to take the death fruits that you get.
Oh, I knew that a while ago. It's the beast guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got teleported there through a portal once. That's how I found it, like super early.
Yeah, that's where I found it too. That's where I was grinding for a bit to get levels.
Yeah, fight his guardian outside. It's super easy.
Which I'm doing right now.
If you can beat the twin gargoyles, you should be able to beat that thing.
Just gave me a bunch of shit, but I don't know what it is or where it is. I have a plan.
You here for spit?
Well, I took you for no matter. Lay out your arms then.
god, there's like 5 of those like fucking torture chamber scythe people.
In where?
Just by this castle that I'm near. I hate fighting those guys.
That's why I don't. I avoid them. Oh, you're by Mount Gale Nair, or whatever the fuck it's called now.
Yeah. Jaded Castle Ramparts. Good thing I got my soap with me.
Rainbow Castle is weird. There's just like a bunch of people with horns.
Oh, God damn it. I even read the warning sign and I still got fucking attacked by the dude. Got eaten by a zombini. That was really fucking close. I was about to get uber shipped by a guy with a spear, then I uber blasted him. Big old command air blast.
That's such an OP spell.
Oh, dude, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Valkyrie's prosthesis. That's what I needed for Millicent, or whatever her name is.
I used like all of my FP on that one guy to do like 40 damage.
I was expecting to get that big laser spell from like a boss or something. It was literally just like some dead dudes lying on the ground and just take it from the body. Actually, I don't think he was dead. I think he was alive, but still, it's just some dude that's there.
Apparently that's the OP boss killer in this game. Just to use that beam.
Well, that's what I did to that fox. Well, because the big upside of it is that you can stagger them, so you just keep hitting them over and over and over with it. Fucking Borg corpse. Kind of like it when you run into like the zombie casters because they're always just kind of like moaning to themselves, and they just like fucking like slice the shit out of their heads.
It'd be kind of annoying though if there's like 6 in a room now, just like fucking blast at me.
Keep nuking a bunch of the high tier soldiers in this area. And I don't feel bad about it because they're assholes. God, that magic spell's bullshit.
So,
I don't even know how much damage my sword can do to these guys because I'm too scared to actually fight them, so I just keep nuking them.
what spell?
Oh, the big, like, turbo laser.
But like what? Where are you and what are you fighting?
Oh, I'm just on, I'm in the shaded castle, whatever the fuck it's called. And it's just like the fancy soldiers there who have like the fucking... One has like a spear that does like fucking, like, big like fancy holy attacks, and I can't remember what the other one has. I think it's just a sword. They have like, where they'll throw like those hook ring magic blades at you and all that kind of shit.
Oh, the Flaming Rock guys. Yeah, they're annoying. They're easy on horseback, but on foot they're just bullshit.
Ooh, and a boss gate. My finger down. You are being summoned to another world.
Be right back.
beautiful. Thank you.
The guy who spawned us literally died before we got through the door. Ray's Executioner Sword. Briar Great Shield. Damn it, Mara's Executioner Sword power is dope. You like literally throw the sword forward and it like spins and like slices people up.
Now, she's passed into the lands that lie beyond the earth. Are you giving me this arm? Thank you. I am in your debt. I think
Where'd Carson
if the arm
go?
serves well enough, it might be possible for me to wield a sword again. If the arm... It might be perhaps then I... If the... It might be perhaps then...
They already aided me in battle.
Don't ignore me.
Who?
You.
I didn't ignore you.
Why didn't you answer me?
I did answer, you just weren't listening.
Yeah, I was. I said, where'd Carson go?
Said I don't know.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. You just don't listen.
You said something about they don't like me or whatever.
Nope.
Yeah, you did.
Nope. Never mentioned anything of that
Nope.
sort at all.
Yeah, you did.
Nope. Once again, you don't
Yeah.
listen.
Yeah, I do.
Damn, shit looks
Oh,
cool as
Exactly
shit.
what you said.
We meet yet again. The arm you gave me truly is a thing of wonder. It feels just like my
Who
own.
looks cool as shit?
Even handling a sword.
Millicent.
Perhaps it is foolish to say this to you of all people, but I am sure of my skill with the sword. Thus, I would have you call upon me in battle.
You mean you got to summon Millicent?
When she had one arm gone, and then now I just gave her a prosthesis,
I
so
would have
now
you
she has a
call upon me
prosthesis
in
arm.
battle.
Yeah.
It is the only way. I would have it is the only.
Supposedly you get to summon her later as part of her quest for a boss fight.
Yeah, I actually had, I got to, I can't remember what boss it was, but I got to summon her for a boss fight when she only had the one arm, and she was just using like a sickle on her other hand. It was cool. I'm not one of these assholes. Cool, I can fire my death ray from my horse.
That door was sealed by wax. tree avatar got bullied.
Welcome. Yes, right this way. This way.
That's a big dragon.
Which dragon?
Well, it's dead, but it's like easily like, you know, the dragon you find back in the Scarlet Rock place that's really old and can't fly.
Yeah.
This dragon is easily like 20 times bigger than it. Like, I can climb it like a building. In fact, I just did.
Volcano cave, that sounds safe.
I found a cane sword.
Actually?
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know what that lever does, but I pulled it. This sword is disgusting in PvP.
Oh, that weird faith intelligence sword you have?
No, I switched to Moonveil. Does so much damage to other people.
Is that after you put the frost on it, I'm guessing?
The what?
Well, because it's one thing is puts frost on, then its other thing is it does like the laser swipe.
I mean, that's what it does with both strikes. It throws out a you slash and it throws out a wave of cold or whatever.
Yeah.
It's very familiar.
God damn. Jar cannon. him. Does 192 damage as base.